In this lesson, we're going to create a layer. We're going to calculate geometry for that layer in the form of area. We are then going to create a buffer around a linear object and then clip that buffer from the shapefile that we created. So for starters, we're going to find an area that we're going to create a shapefile over. And what we're going to pretend that we're doing here is we're looking at a group of trees that might be a future timber harvest. And we can see this group of trees right here. You can tell that they're larger trees because, just their topology that they have. And if we zoom in, that becomes even more obvious. And so in this case, you can kind of be as selective as you want to be. I'm just going to create a shapefile that includes this cluster of trees right here. I'm not going to include this part as well. So to start with, what we want to do is we want to go in and we want to view our catalog. So we want to go to catalog view or catalog pane, either one works. And then over here we can go to folders and we can go to the folder that we are currently in, which is this week 6 folder. And we can open that up, and then in here we can right click on it and we can say new, and we want to say shapefile. Alright, so we're creating this new shapefile. It's on our week 6 location. The shapefile is going to be named cut unit. It's going to be a polygon type. And its coordinate system, let's just give it the same coordinate system that our streams has. Alright, so all that works, and now we can say run. Alright, here we go. So we created this new cut unit here, right? So with that, we're going to do a few things. So remember how I said when we're digitizing, a lot of times it's nice to make it a hollow shape. So that's the first thing that we're going to do here is we'll go here, we can double click on here, we'll go to color, our internal color, let's give it no color at all. And then our outline, let's make it red for right now, just so it stands out, and we can make it a single point red outline. We can just say apply to that. And now we can close this symbology. Alright, so we've got this created here, we have our cut unit created here. Now we're going to go to edit. And inside of edit, what we're going to do is we're going to create, right? Because we're creating a new shapefile. So we can click on this. We can go over here. We click on cut unit. And it's going to come up with drawing, right? So we're drawing our polygon here. And like I said, we're going to draw our polygon around this group of trees here. And we have snapping on. Let's turn snapping off for right now. All right. I'm just gonna roughly go around this. If this was an actual cut unit, you'd probably want to be pretty accurate to your outside borders, but as this is just a lesson on how to do this, we can be pretty quick and dirty with this. We're going to keep it all to this side of the stream. Though you don't have to be super detailed with that right now. And when you get to the end, just double click. There you go. We created our cut unit there, right? And so we can stop editing. So we can go up here and say save. And save all our edits. Alright. So we've saved our edits there. Now we can go back to our map view or whatever, and we can clear our selection. There we go. Now it's not selected in that bright blue. Now if we go over here and we right click, we can go to attributes table. And our attributes table is going to show our single polygon, right? So we have our polygon, it's just the one that we created there. Its ID number is 0, which is fine. But what we want to do is let's add a few fields here. So we can click add, and it's going to give us a field here. Our field name that we want to do for the first one is area. And we could do it in acres. Let's just call it acres, right? And over here and we want to double click here, and we want to do the drop down and change this to numeric. Decimal places, 6 is fine. We don't need that many, so let's just go to 2 decimal places. We'll just say OK. All right. And then we can actually click here. We're going to add a second field. And in this one, we're going to call it perimeter. All right. And then we can go over here, double click, do our drop down, go here real quick, and we're going to say numeric. And same thing. Let's give it 2 decimal places. And we'll say OK. All right. Now we can close this. It's going to ask us if we want to save our changes. We say yes. All right, so thanks. Now you can see here we have 2 columns here, one called acres, one called perimeter. And so what we can do with these is if you right click up at the top here, you can go to calculate geometry. And now to calculate geometry, we have the field that we're doing is the acres field. We want to drop this down and we want to say area. All right, and then our area units that we want to use are going to be acres. And then our coordinate system is going to be the same coordinate system we were just using. So let's do this with the cut unit because that's our unit, our coordinate system there. We say OK. All right, so there we go. We've got that in acres. And now we can go over to our perimeter here. Right click on this, calculate field. Excuse me. Say exit out of that. Right click on it, calculate geometry. We have perimeter, properties here. We want to go down to length. So we have perimeter length right here. Length units. Let's make this. So we did it in acres, let's just keep it in yards. And then coordinate system. We say cut units, and we can say OK. All right, and there's our perimeter in yards. All right, so we have these 2 values here. And we're going to use these in a little bit here when we report everything. So, but that's all done, right? So we've we have our create feature here. That's still up. We can close this, but now we know what our acres are and what our perimeter is, right? So the next thing that we can do is we're going to create a buffer. And this buffer is going to go around the stream. So what we're imagining here is that you have a stream buffer in here that's a no-cut zone due to presence of a listed species, in this case coho. So we're going to say there's coho in this stream, and we can't cut within a certain distance of that stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a buffer around this stream system, and then we'll extract that information out of this area, and then that way we can figure out how much area is left over afterwards. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here. The quickest way to kind of do some of this stuff is in this search field over here. So if we go view and we go to our toolboxes, let me see here. Analysis and tools, sorry. Things changed a little bit here. So we have buffer right here. This gives us some of our favorite tools if we've already done some things. So we can just click on buffer for our first one, right? And it brings up part of our toolbox here. And one of the things you might notice is that when you hover over these tools, you can see some of the information for them. So it creates a buffer with a polygon, right? And we can click on them. If we click on them, and then we hover over the question mark, you can see here that it actually tells you what it's doing and how it works. And you can see how you're doing buffers around points, buffers around lines, and buffers around polygons there. And you can see the difference between a dissolve type output and a non-dissolve type output. So if you don't dissolve it, then each individual point or line is going to have its own buffer that's around it. In this case, we're going to just dissolve it because what we're looking at here is each one of these streams is broken up into segments. So I can show you that here if we go to the map and we choose our select button here. You can see if I click on this stream, it shows it that segment. Same thing if I click on this one here or this one here. It shows them in segments. So if you were doing a buffer around that, not that it would make a huge difference, but you can see here that with each one of those segments, it would do a buffer line around each of them. Well, we don't really need that, so we'll just do a dissolve type. So what we're going to do is we want to clear our selection here. So you don't have anything selected. Now if you zoom out, you'll notice that the stream layer is huge. We don't want to create a buffer all the way around all of this stream layer. We only want to create it around where we're working here. So let's zoom back into where we were at. We can get, say, roughly here. That's a good extent. All right. So then what we want to do is we want to go up here and we want to go to our tools. And we'll get in here and we'll go back to where we had buffer. So, okay. And we're going to create a buffer around this. So our input feature is going to be our streams. Our output feature, we'll just let it be this buffer. Our distance around it is going to be 100 feet. And then we're going to look here and we want to do a dissolve around this. So dissolve output features. Now the other thing we want to do here is let's go up here. This is our parameters for how we're doing everything. Let's go up to here to our environments. You can click on this and we can do our processing extent. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to make it so it's only processing the streams that are in this area right here. So for the extent, the default would be the entirety of the whole thing. We don't need that. So we just need our extent to be our current display extent. We can click that. And that changes a few of the variables here. And then we can go down here and we can say run. Okay, and as you can see here, especially if I was to go in here and turn off the background image and the LiDAR, you can see that we created buffers around all of the streams that were, all of the segments that were visible when we were zoomed in on our potential cut unit here, right? So instead of creating buffers around every single stream, which would have taken quite a bit of time and isn't useful for what we're doing, we were able to make it so it just did it within what was visual when we were doing the cut unit. So we're going to turn these back on. All right, and so the next thing we want to do here is we're going to go in and we're going to do an erase function. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take this cut unit boundary and we're going to erase any place that it overlaps with this buffer, right? So what we're trying to show here is acres before we put the stream buffer in, and then acres of the cut unit after we put the stream buffer in. So we can go up here and we can go back and we can add in erase. And let's click on this. And then we want to go to the question mark, make sure what we're looking at is correct, right? So we have our input feature. Our input feature is going to be the cut unit. Our erase feature is going to be the buffers, and then our output is going to be the cut unit minus the buffers, right? So input feature, we're going to make that cut unit. Erase feature is going to be the stream buffers. And then we can make this our output feature is going to be our cut unit let me just minus buffer. Let me delete where it says erase. And then we can say run. All right. And it ran. That was pretty quick. Now you can't really tell what happened there because we have the cut unit and the cut unit minus buffer are the same symbology, but let's just turn some things off so we can see it here. So we're going to turn off this stream buffers, and let's turn off our background colors just so we can really see this now. And now what we've got going on here is our cut unit minus our buffers and our buffers. But see, what we'll do here is we'll turn off, this is our cut unit by itself, right? And then this is our cut unit minus the buffer there. And you can see here, if we were to turn the stream buffers back on, it cut out all of that cut unit that overlapped the stream buffer. Okay, so now the last part of this is where we want to go in here, we want to right click on our cut unit minus our buffers, and we want to go into the attributes table. And then you can see here that we have a few things going on. For starters, it brought over some of the shape length and shape area. We don't really need that. Those columns came over from the buffer side of things. They're not as important. But the one thing that you want to look at here is our acres haven't changed, and neither has our perimeter. So if we go in here and we open up our attributes table for our cut unit, we can see we have 60 and 2,288 yards for our perimeter, which doesn't make sense, right? We cut some out, so they should be different. Well, the reason why that doesn't make sense is because these don't auto-update. So what we want to do is we want to right-click again. We want to go down here, calculate geometry. We're going to do the exact same thing we did before. So we have acres. Our property is going to be area. Wait for a second. And then we want to give it acres. And our coordinate system is going to be our cut unit coordinate system. And then we say OK. And you can see there, it updated that 60 acres to 55 acres. And then our perimeter, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to go here, we're going to calculate geometry. And we're going to go to perimeter and length. Units. It's going to be yards, right? Because that's what we used before. And our coordinate system is going to be our cut unit. Right? And then we say OK. And that does that, and it changed that too. If you got any questions, let me know, and I'll try to help you out.